Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, The Virgo Dad. Today I'll be sharing with you my first month experience with my daughter, Little May. I'll be sharing about some of the seemingly weird things that happened during my first month with Little May that I later found out that were pretty common and actually very normal for most newborns out there. So some of these instances gave me significant stress during the first month because I wasn't expecting all of this. So I hope my sharing will help some of you parents to be and reduce some of the stress that you might experience. I would like to assure some of you parents to be that the first month is usually the biggest learning curve you will have because a lot of things are unexpected and it's the first time you welcome a new family member. So let me assure you that as time goes, you'll gain more experience and then it will all turn out fine. So don't worry too much. Some disclaimers here. I'm no medical professional, so I'm just sharing my experience and hope that this will help illuminate some of the situations you may encounter. So if you have some concerns for your newborn child, you may want to consult your pediatrician. I also like to timestamp my videos, so to help you find the content that you are interested in more easily. You can find the timestamps down in the video description below. And also, I'll be sharing some of the links of my due diligence down in the video description below. So if there's some topics that you'd like to learn more and read up more, you may check out the links down below. Without further ado, let's go right into it. The first thing that I would like to share here are the thick Meconium stools. So for the first few days, for Little May it was the first 2 days, she had these really thick Meconium stools and it looks like some black dark color paste kind of stools. So that is really normal. So for the first few days of your newborn, the stools will appear that way. After that, it will be normal and a bit more watery because after all, they are just having milk for their diet. The next thing I would like to share with you is about the weight loss of up to 10% of their birth body weight for the first few days. Because it seems that babies have this extra fluid from their birth. So during the first few days, they will shed some of their birth body weight up to 10%. So if it's within 10%, that is pretty normal and you should not be overly concerned. And for Little May, she regained all this lost weight by the second week. So if your baby has regained this lost weight by the second week, that is fine. But after the second week, if your baby has not recovered this lost weight, then it's best that you consult your pediatrician to find out if there may be something wrong. The next thing I will talk about is something very common. It's called Cradle Cap. So for Little May, during the first few days, we already noticed some of these thin oily patches around her forehead and also her scalp. So this we thought is pretty normal because like all people adult and we thought maybe babies will also secrete some oil. But from the second week onwards, it started to develop a little bit more and we noticed this kind of small tiny crusty oil patches around her forehead, her face area, more towards the forehead, and also some around her scalp. So this developed more and more. And then you do not need to be overly concerned because a lot of babies have this cradle cap thing. So for Little May, what we did, we just bathe her as usual and then clean her face, her scalp, make sure that she is clean. So this kind of oil secretions are actually pretty much normal. For Little May, her cradle cap around the forehead area, as you see here in this picture, actually went off quite quickly. So I think within the first months, if I recall correctly, it started to go away. But then for her scalp, in this picture here, you see, for her scalp, the cradle cap lasted much longer. It lasted around up to 3 months. And then it starts to soften a little, but were pretty much stuck to her scalp. So by 3 months, then we started to help her remove some of this cradle cap. So for cradle cap, it doesn't really affect your baby. It's not itchy, at least for Little May. So you do not need to purposefully go and remove it. And most of the time, this cradle cap will come off on its own. But for Little May, after 3 months, it is still there and then it became soft and easier to remove. So we sort of help her remove. The next thing I would like to share is about poor complexion. For Little May, when she came out, she looks perfectly fine, like the complexion you see in movies and so on. So her complexion was fine, was smooth. And then starting from the first week onwards, she started to have a lot of these pimple outbreaks on her face, as you can see in the picture here. So there were a lot of pimples popping out around her face and we were quite concerned what is happening to little May. We didn't expect this of a newborn because in movies we usually don't see that. So as a first time parent, we were quite concerned and we weren't really expecting this. So after some reading up and all, we found out that actually a lot of this happened because there's excess hormones from the mother that's passed to the baby during birth. So for little May, this was the hormonal imbalance that caused her to have these pimple outbreaks. So over time, when your baby start to excrete some of these extra hormones, the complexion will improve. So for the time being, what I will really suggest is for you to give your baby some hand mittens, because you know for babies, they have really sharp fingernails, and then they are so young and small. Usually most parents wouldn't dare to like sort of trim their fingernails. So it would be best to give them some hand mittens so they would not accidentally scratch themselves and then burst those pimples and cause scarring. And on this topic of extra hormones, what also happened with little May when she was born, we did notice this small little skin tag. She had one at birth, small little skin tag right at her chest area, so somewhere around here. So she had this skin tag and we're pretty much concerned. So as a parent, I was thinking, it's quite an unsightly position to have this little skin tag. So this little skin tag is sort of like some extra skin that is on the body. So for little May, what I was concerned with is as she's a female, so when she grows up, then maybe she's very limited choice for outfit, because attire wise, if you're wearing something low cut or v-neck, something, it might show that little skin tag, and then bikinis may be out of the questions. I was really thinking a bit much at the moment. For some of the doctors we spoke to, they actually told us this skin tag is something very minor, doesn't really have any health concerns. But then if we are concerned about it, when little May grows up, then we might send her for some minor surgery to remove the skin tag. But then some doctors told us that, okay, this skin tag thing is actually something very common, because due to the extra hormone from the mom and so on, they will have this skin tags, and then after some time it will drop off on its own. And that was what happened with little May. So for little May, true enough, after the first week, we sort of noticed that the skin tag disappeared. And maybe because it's the newborn kind of things, they are rapidly growing and recovering, there wasn't any scar where the skin tag was. And then within that 1 month, we also noticed about 3 or 4 new skin tags appearing in different locations around her body. But then similarly, those skin tags went off over time. So now little May doesn't really have any of these skin tags at all on her body. The next thing I'm going to talk about is jaundice. So jaundice is also something that is very common amongst babies. So what we found out that there's jaundice levels tend to drop slower if they are breastfed as compared to babies that are formula fed. So somehow formula fed babies have their jaundice levels drop faster than breastfed babies. So for little May, she is 100% breastfed, so it took her quite some time to bring down her jaundice levels. For little May, it took her about 3 to 4 weeks to drop down to the safe jaundice level. In Singapore, the level is below 100. The next thing I'm going to share also got me pretty concerned for little May, and really also adds a little bit of stress as a new parent. So for little May, she was born with these tiny hairs all over her back, as you can see in the photo here. So this brings me back to the concern, outfit. So actually me and my wife, we are concerned, okay, if little May had so much hairs on her back, how is she going to wear those kind of bareback attire, or then again the bikini? How is she going to fit into those attires? So I did some reading up, and then these tiny hairs are actually pretty common also, and then they will drop off over time. So for little May, these tiny hairs on her back started to drop off and were completely clear by the 3rd or 4th week. So if you see this with your baby as well, no need to worry too much. It's actually something pretty common. For little May, her umbilical cord also dropped off around the 1st week. This is something you can note on when to expect the umbilical cord to drop off. And then also in the 1st month, you'll start to notice that your baby will have this kind of skin flaking. So for little May, it actually happened around 2 weeks. So she had this skin flaking all over her body. So it looks something like what you notice when you get sunburn. So here are some photos of how it looks like. So this is something actually all babies will go through, so it's normal and you don't need to freak out if you see your baby's skin flaking. If you found what I've been sharing useful or like what I have been sharing so far, please press on the like button and support our channel. Do also consider subscribing. One tip I would like to share is that nurses actually recommended for us to let little May sleep on her side. Reason being is that babies tend to have a lot of these speed up incidents. So for babies, it will be better to let them sleep on their side. So if they do really speed up, it will flow out from the side and then it will not choke them, because if they lie on their back to sleep, if they do speed up, the milk will come out and then choke them. So that is something you can take note and maybe consider to let your baby sleep sideways. The next thing I would like to share is about swaddling. So swaddling is something that will help your baby to feel more secure and sleep better. Because for babies, when they are in the mother's womb, it's actually not very spacious. So they are actually huddled quite tightly in the mother's womb. So when babies come out, it's the same. They want to have the same kind of feeling. They want to feel secure and warm, like how they felt in the mother's womb. So something that they are familiar with and helps them to sleep. So at the beginning, at least in the first month, it's best to swaddle your baby tightly. So not too tight, but not too loose either. So to give them a sense of security, but you don't want it to be so tight that it suffocates them, and you don't want it to be so loose that when they move a bit, then the swaddle will come off. So I have another video that talks about how to properly swaddle your baby. I'll leave the link down in the video description below, and up here if I'm able to. And then some of the other things that I'd like to share with you is that for little May, we gave her 100% breastfeeding, and then her feeding was about every 3 hours. So you have to be prepared for this. So during the first month, definitely, or maybe up to the first few months at least, you will notice that your baby will need feeding every 2 to 3 hours. So usually it's more often for baby that are breastfed, because it seems that breastfed babies, they digest the breast milk better, so they get hungry more easily and you need to feed them more often. So what I've heard from most other parents is that it's about 2 hours, but for us it's a bit lucky. Little May drinks about every 3 hours, and then babies will wake up every 2 to 3 hours. So they sleep a lot and they wake up very regularly to have their milk, because babies have really small tummies, so they can only drink so much before they are full. But then it gets digested pretty quickly as well, because it's just fluid. Then they get hungry very quickly. So for the first few months, you'll be very tired. You have to wake up every 2 to 3 hours at night to feed your baby, to change the diapers. So for the first month, what we notice is that for little May, she really poops and or pee every 3 hours. So you have to really change diapers a lot during the first few months. So here are some of the things that I thought might be helpful, that is something I didn't expect. I hope this video has helped all you parents to be, and if you found any of this useful or help you in any way, please consider subscribing and give us a like for the video. Also, please feel free to share this with any of your friends that might find this useful to them. Thank you for your time and take care.